Hey guys, Nathan Brendan Masters. Some of you may have noticed that I'm using a different camera now. I want something of a little bit higher quality. I've had this camera for a while. I did a video about it on my main channel, and I want to do one on this channel in regards to how I use it for art videos. So let's get into it. This is the Sony NEX 5T. It's an update to the Sony NEX 3 and NEX F3, which I've had myself, and I actually loved that camera. The next line was pretty much the line that the modern Sony cameras are based off of. Things like the A6100, the A5100, all those cameras were based off of this setup. And as a matter of fact, if you look at this, you see things haven't really changed much, even the battery in most cases. The Sony NP-FW50 battery is a staple among Sony users, and if you have a bunch of them and you have a new Sony camera, it's a good chance that it will fit that camera. Even the Sony a7 II used this battery up until it was replaced with the FZ100. My main use for this camera is obviously vlogging. It's a vlogging camera for the most part. It's 16 megapixels, 1080p, has a great image, and of course it has the also important flip out screen. And this one flips all the way up, and you have to be very careful because some of these don't flip all the way up. Some of them just flip slightly up. This camera has the advantage of a screen that flips all the way up, and on top of flipping all the way up, it also tilts down. This is again one of the first few cameras that Sony did that had this kind of flip screen. Generally your LCD was going to flip up, flip out to the side, or tilt down. Very rarely were you going to get a camera that flipped up and then tilted down. Off the top of my head, I don't know any other manufacturer that makes a screen that does that. All the other screens that have that kind of versatility are side swinging swivel screens, like those used in many of the Canon cameras. The next line was also their mirrorless line, which allowed the cameras to be smaller and use a wider variety of lenses. The E-mount lens is the native lens for the Sony mirrorless cameras, but because it's a mirrorless camera, you could use a lens adapter and shoot with anything from an EF lens to an FD lens. The FD lenses are the older Canon manual lenses. The beautiful thing about this is it's a very good camera for the price you pay. You can find these on eBay for about $250 with the lens, 16 megapixels, 1080p, and you get that Sony image. Now, of course, to get a really great image on a day like the day this was shot, you're going to need some ND filters and some things like that, but at the end of the day, it's a solid image. In fact, it's very close to the image of the NEX F3, which I used to shoot part of my film Transit, even though the majority of this film was shot with the Panasonic Lumix G7, which is a 4K camera. But the delivery was 1080p, so this fit right in. Now, with anything like this, obviously there's some drawbacks, and if you use Sony cameras, you probably know what they are. The camera will overheat after about 20-25 minutes. If I'm drawing or something like that, I try to just keep a little bit of eye on the camera, and I'll just stop it from recording. When it gets to around 19 to 20 minutes, somewhere in there, I'll just stop recording. Generally, it's not a big deal. And of course, it has the Sony menus, which some people think are inconvenient. I don't really find them that big of a deal. I mean, they're not like the Panasonic menus where you have to, you have to do some deep dives between like Panasonic and Canon. I think these menus are fine. And a big thing I like about these menus is when you select them, they tell you what they do. For a beginner, that's extremely helpful, and even someone like me who tends to forget sometimes where certain functions are, it's nice to have that. Now, you should keep in mind that this camera doesn't have an external mic jack. So if you're vlogging, you might want to get some of those stick-on windjammers and just stick them over the microphone holes when you're outside. Shouldn't be any problem at all. If you're actually doing something, if you're like doing a film or doing something narrative, of course you want to use external audio. I would suggest the Zoom H1 or the new Zoom H1N. Those have always been inexpensive ways of getting good, clean audio for your videos. So that's it for me, guys. If you have any questions, put them down in the comment section. I'll answer to the best of my abilities. Other than that, guys, take it easy. Nathan Brendan Masters.
Don't look
Hasta.
back, we're here to stay. A life we knew would come one day. And this is it, the borderline to where the future leaves us behind. The fire will burn and never die. Looking through the eyes of a brand new life. It's so